Hope my presentation is visible. Am I
Yes,
audible?
sir.
Will somebody confirm me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes,
You are visible. The screen is visible and you are audible, sir.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I hope my
yes, sir.
presentation is also seen, right?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Right. Okay, thanks for that introduction. Yeah, I think that is a data science world where people are aware of everything, specifically the patent and all what Faria said. Yeah, which we received it very recently. Fine. So, okay, let me set the base. Probably I'm starting with thinking that people are new to this field. Okay, I know I've seen list of participants here, quite a good of experienced people available here. So, just pardon me. So I'll just take you to this particular revolution which has happened in the area of machine learning and data science. Okay. We'll see, as far as the time is, whatever is the time is there, based on that, we'll discuss. So I'll be sharing, some of the very interesting stories to you so that you get a fair idea. And, this talk sets a platform where your coming sessions will be linked with these discussions, what we are going to do in this talk. Yeah. So let me, okay. So let me start. Probably if you see, uh, when we talk about, the doctors which they used to treat the patients. So every doctor used to listen to the symptoms, okay, of the patient, and later on he'll come to a conclusion that the patient is suffering from so and so things, and finally he comes with a particular, treatment. That's how it goes on. So over the years, that was the manual process which used to carry out. So a time came where people thought, why don't we put this particular intelligence of a person, okay, in the machine itself, okay. So we came up with the particular rules like that, where we have a lot of symptoms. Okay, if these symptoms are there, or if the value of this particular symptoms is like this, so forth. Okay, you can establish if your temperature is greater than so and so, if your BP is between so and so, if your age is so and so. Okay, you could conclude something. So that was the first task where people used to do a lot of artificial intelligence. So we had initial systems like Mycin was there, where you give some of the symptoms and it used to predict some of the diseases. Okay, may not be so appropriately, but it went on. Okay, and sometimes you feel that these particular features itself are not sufficient for me to identify the exact disease. We'll come to that particular part also by referring to the same example. And over the period of time, what we did is, of course, we were in the AI age. AI was, of course, old field. Now it is coming into the applied AI. Okay. AI was being used, but now we are into the real applied AI age where AI is being applied in most of the fields. Then, if I just extend this particular example, okay, if I have some of the symptoms of a patient, then I have, some more characteristics which are added to this. And based on that, I can predict a particular disease. So if I'm able to get the data out of it, okay, of course, there are a lot of restrictions to that. Can I store that data? Can I capture that data? Okay, these are all based upon the confidential data and so forth. You need to really work on it. But assume that I have all the patient data along with the, okay, say forget about patient name, but some patient ID, some age, gender, and symptoms. I have the symptoms, and I could predict some disease and some treatment. And I have this huge amount of data. So what I do is nothing but, because there's so many symptoms and so many dependencies happening. Can I really, make my machine learn about the symptoms so that that what it can do is it can predict what disease you're talking about. So there comes a particular field called machine learning. People made the system learn, okay, with various particular facts. So most important being there is nothing but the features. So we have a lot of features. Okay, like probably the symptoms are the features, the other characteristics of the patient are the features. Okay, based on these particular features, you're predicting a disease. Then you are of course looking for a treatment and so forth. So a lot of learning came into picture, learning systems came into picture. I'll see if I have some time, because we should know the designing of a learning system. Okay. Time passed by, people started using learning, applied, this learning in various facets. Then of course, you come into picture that, sometimes two people have the same disease, but the treatment is different. That means the features, the common features are not going to give me the exact prediction. I need to go real in depth of it to identify some more features which differentiate between them. So there came the concept of deep learning came into picture, where the common features are not sufficient. We also take this example with respect to twins.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we are able to hear you very nicely, but the screens and slides are not changing. If you are probably changing them.
I have not yet changed.
Okay, okay, okay.
I'm giving you a very good story first. Before
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. An interesting story.
Then no, because when I go to slides, usually people, oh, this is slide, this is a matter which is there on net also. So I'll take just to get the platform, then I'll go with the slides. I'm
Okay,
not-
okay, sure, sure.
Just check it whether it is moving. Is it? Are you able
Yes,
to
sir.
see?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Then
sir.
fine.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. Fine. No problem. So here I was telling that probably I was talking about a twins, right? We have a twins who has common features. Yet I want to differentiate between them. So the common features, the common learning features, is very difficult for me to who is that actual person. So I require some additional features. There I go for a deep learning like sort of things. Now, let me tell you one more thing. I'll come to the data science directly, which talks about the fourth paradigm, okay, of computing. Okay, where they say data is a new oil, a lot of data is being generated. Now, what is different with data science? Okay, it's an interdisciplinary field. For example, probably a person is suffering from disease X. Well, whether this disease X is affecting his job life, the performance in the job, okay, the performance in the studies of a student, whether this is affecting that. So altogether, one such domain is affecting some other domain. Okay, there we need to identify. There comes interdisciplinary nature of that called data science. I'll give one more example here to make it forward. Like I had a student who was, who was always failing in a particular course. One fine day he said that I'm performing very well. Okay. And finally again he failed. So what happened is BP has fluctuated up. Doctor did the treatment, and interestingly, he called me and asked how the person is performing. So if you see, there is a correlation now here. So that has to be identified as a data science problem. So that's how the revolution goes on changing. But again, before I proceed further, I would like to alarm the people, specifically people who are doing research. Okay, these days people, there is no contribution. There is one particular alarm which I want to give it. Okay, that there is, because of this machine learning and data science, some of the researchers, not all, they think that okay, I need to collect some data, apply this machine learning algorithm, get some metrics in the form of accuracy and all, and say that I am getting this much of accuracy and so forth. But that, of course, that gives a contribution, but not a research. Okay, yes, you can use the learning algorithms and all to validate your algorithms, you validate your approaches and so forth. So with this, probably just to get an entire idea of it, we'll talk about some of the tools, listing of some tools, because I have seen you have sessions across with so many things. But being an interdisciplinary field, I just tell you, you require to know some of the codes, some of the knowledge from the statistics. You require statistics. You should know the linear algebra. You have to know the linear algebra concepts very well. You should also have, that is, knowledge of the domain which you are working on at. So then only the things becomes very interesting. Otherwise, what happens is we have seen people taking some standard data sets without understanding the features of the data set, and they are just working on them. And finally, when they get the accuracy, they are not able to speak the domain at all. That is the reason if you see, we also require feature engineering and understanding of the features. We'll see how the time permits and how to go for it. I'll start with learning. Can computers think? Of course, not by themselves, but we can make computer think. Can they be made to learn? We have seen it, yes. We can make them learn. Okay. So if you could understand how to program them to learn, to improve automatically with experience, the impact would be dramatic. Yes. Because rather than I learning so many things, I can make computers learn all these sort of things. So the impact will be very much, see that's the reason we have all these fields coming up now. Okay. I also talked about computers. I already talked about computers learning from medical records. The speech recognition, it was very old field actually. Windows 8 system, okay, in those late years of 2000. So I used to sit, and train my own system where it could recognize the words. Sometimes, so for example, I read the speech recognition. It used to stop at recognition because it couldn't understand my pronunciation. Then I used to repeat twice, thrice. And next time when I say recognition, it used to identify it. That is, the system was learning by itself. Okay. And of course, I used to give instructions long back, probably at least 20 years back, just through speech to just switch on the system and so forth. So they were learning. Loan applications, yes, we have also talked about some of the robotic process automation, some of the applications we have developed here. Okay, where one such was known also. Where that routine things can it be done by the system. Okay. Why? Because it will of course not only avoid the errors, but it can do a lot of productivity as well. So we did one such application here with respect to our office, where most of the time we have seen that our office, the school office or the deal office, they do a very routine task. Most of the tasks are routine. So we were thinking about, like how do we reduce this manpower? Because we had a lot of outsourced staff and we are spending a lot. How do we reduce it? So what we thought is, can we identify those routine things, okay, which can be done by the system? Then we went for a robotic process automation. Okay. That can also be done with AI with a lot of rules written onto that. So most of the advantage was the student will not have to come physically to the office, number one. Number two, they may do it anytime. That is across the clock. Okay, anytime, anywhere. That was happening. Only for the core decision making, we may have little bit of staff. Yes. So you can make the system learns with that. Likewise, many such examples we can take: financial transaction, identifying the fraudulent use of credit cards. We are talking about autonomous vehicles. We'll see if we can take an example later on that. Playing of the games, you can see that you are playing game with the chess. That is with the system. For example, you are playing chess with the system. So you have made the system learn how to play the chess. Every move has been trained to this system, and of course, the system has learned onto that. So that way, probably you are able to make the system learn on that. So machine learning, have some traditional definitions. I don't want to go for, I directly want to go for a very formal definition here because you need to understand that. A computer program is said to learn from experience E. That is first thing. So you need to make the system learn through your experiences with respect to some class of task T, with a particular task T, and performance measure P, because you have to specify this performance measure. Okay. If its performance at the task T, as measured by the program, improves with the experience. That means to say here, today I have made the system learn with certain of my experience to perform a particular task. Okay. Tomorrow, probably this will further improve it. Okay. Tomorrow, because it learns more and more data comes into the system, it will learn by itself again and again, as we do in our day-to-day life. So as a result, what happens is the performance improves over a period of time. So just one example here: handwritten recognition learning problem. All is from your existing resources. Nothing is new in the slides. Okay. Let us see what is task T: recognizing and classifying handwritten words with images. So the problem is handwritten recognition learning problem. Task is recognize the handwritten words with images and classify them. Okay. Now, performance percent of words correctly classified is nothing but your performance. Okay. Training experience, a database of handwritten words with given classification. You give a handwritten word and you will give the label for that. So that's how you have to conduct actually represent a problem. So today what is happening is you usually do not represent a problem. And we directly say that we are making the system learn, which is probably it's difficult. When I come back and say that what was the task you are doing, what was your performance measure, what is the performance measure now, what was there earlier when you made the system learn for the first time, when the learning was improved, more and more data was added for the system to learn how the performance has improved, you're not able to understand. So that's the reason any problem, any learning problem has to be expressed, okay, using these parameters. Okay, there's another example, I'll just leave it. So machine learning is said as a subset of AI. Okay, that is mainly concerned with the development of algorithms, which allow computer to learn from the data and past experience on their own. Please do remember, It is concerned with development of algorithms that allow computer to learn from the data as well as past experience. Okay, it enables machines to automatically learn from data, improve performance from experiences, and predict things without being explicitly programmed. So here, there is no explicit programming. Yeah. In case of AI, we were explicitly programming, we are writing intelligent algorithms. Lot of rules are written, that rules gets modified, additional rules gets added. But here in case of machine learning, the performance improves with experience over a period of time. Okay. Now here, so probably I'll again go to one of the example where interestingly you will get to know what we did it with after this particular the Venn diagram what you're able to see. Interestingly, if you see again, this will be displayed one more slide. We have three fields here: mathematics, computer science, domain expertise. Let us not talk about domain expertise. Let us talk about mathematics and computer science. Okay. So that's where we require, that is machine learning is coming as an intersection of that. So additionally, if you see domain expertise for mathematics, statistical research is coming into picture. Domain expertise for computer science, data processing, this was done since long. We used to write applications for a automation of a particular domain. Okay, that was a data processing. But when you have all these three fields together, we get a data science, which not only requires the mathematics and computer science, it also requires the domain expertise. As we discussed, that the impact of the health, okay, on the performance in my job, okay, is the domain which is coming into picture here. Okay, I'll just give an example for the people who are for the first time here with respect to the classification system. Then I'll go ahead. Okay. Just bear with me, those who know this very well. Okay, again, this is an example from a book, not a new example from there. So here, classification system, an example is coming into picture just to form the base, put the base so that, the coming sessions will be in line with that. So here, we want to create a program to recognize birds. In fact, we have a lot of ornithologists in our campus who are very good at recognizing various birds. Okay. But I can't have all of them at all time. Okay, that too into those particular areas where it's very risky for them to identify which bird has arrived in which particular season. So I want to create a program to recognize these birds. So we want to replace this ornithologist with a computer. Okay. So 4 parts of the birds can be measured. This could include weight, wingspan, webbed feet or not, back color. Okay. So these 4 metrics, 4 particular features are used here to identify a bird. Sorry. So we can also have other measures as well. Now, here, for example, with the same 4 features or same values of these features, I'm able to recognize 2 birds. Then, of course, this learning is insufficient for me. I need to go for a deep learning where I need to identify more and more features so that I can really differentiate between them. So that's what I said, there can be other measures as well. So once we have identified these particular measures, here in this case, these are nothing but my features, okay, whose values will help me identify a particular bird or recognize a particular bird, right? So here the values of these particular features will help me recognize a particular bird. Now, first thing is nothing but in the feature engineering, we'll see that you have to actually understand these features. What do you mean by weight? What do you mean by wingspan? What could be the different values of wingspan? Okay, back color. How many types of colors could be there in general? Okay, there can be many colors. Okay, so this sort of, at least you have to understand each and every feature. Okay, it's at least maybe some range of values which it can have it. Okay, and of course, when you do this particular learning, your entire knowledge should be with respect to these features and with respect to the recognizing a particular bird. That is the thing what you need to do. So the 4 things which will be measured are called features or attributes. I already told that. Okay, there's some example which is again taken from that particular, directly a particular book. Okay, each of the rows in the table is the instance or an object made up of a features. You're able to see. So the 4 features: weight, wingspan, webbed feet, back color, and we have a label there, the species which is identified. Okay. Now if you see here, Sagittarius is a particular species which is, or bird which is recognized, okay, whose values of wingspan and the weight are varying. So it should have a range then. Maybe you can have a range for the other one as well. But since we have only one labels, we are not able to identify. So here, the first learning is like this, but when more and more data comes, the system has to learn more on that. Yeah. So the first two features are numeric and can take decimal values. Now we will see very interestingly some of the interesting things where you get a lot of algorithms. Okay. The third feature is binary, you know very well, because it has yes or no. And the fourth feature is enumeration over a color palette. Okay, you have various colors in this. Okay. Now, if you clearly see these particular features, web feed and back color may be categorical variables. Okay. Because of course they have yes or no, and back color is having values within certain range of colors in this case. So here, what we are doing is nothing but after identifying the features, we are also identifying the type of that particular features, whether it is a categorical variable, okay, whether it is a enumeration variable, whether it is a binary, okay, whether it is a continuous variable. We are going to do that, identify it at this stage itself. Okay, do not directly apply an ML algorithm and then see what is happening. So unless and until these features are not understood properly, it is very difficult to understand the domain in this case. Now, for example, just to make when you get more interest in this, let us talk about, I want to identify, if you see here, where to start if I want to write a program for this, just like in AI. Shall I first do the measurement of weight or wingspan or web feed or back color? For example, I'll start with web feed. Okay, whether a particular bird has a web feed or not, yes or no. Okay, I have only one yes. Okay, so if yes, directly I can say it's a Gavia here in this case of this. I will not go for other features at all. So automatically I'm able to reduce the features for this particular data set, but it may not be true as we go on, the learning gets increases. Okay. Okay, if it is low, for example, when it is say low, okay, I have of course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lows. Then probably I'll go and check what is the back color. It is gray. Yes, directly I'll say Sagittarius. I will not even check the wingspan and weight. Okay. So we are getting some set of algorithms, here in this case. I'm not naming them because there will be some speaker who will name such things. Okay, if it is not gray, then probably I'll go and check black. Okay. But here it is a web feed is yes or no. So at yes, we may get, in that case, can you start with black color and say yes is a Gavia and no is a Camophilus? Fine. So probably just getting to the rhythm of that. Okay, bear with me those who are already know this. So what are the different ways to identify Camophilus principalus? We have already discussed that. Okay. So what are the different ways? How I identify a particular word, that is bird. What I have to do, I have to hire an ornithologist, and they should be at different locations, specifically like our campus. Okay, it's very difficult to have a particular physical person. So can this process be automated? Yes, it can be automated. So if you want to automate, what are the things you require it? That is more important here. Okay. So set up many bird feeders with cameras and computers attached to them to identify the birds that come in. Interesting. Set up bird feeders, because if you put a bird feeder only, then the bird will come there. And you put a camera and computer attached to them to identify the birds that come in. Okay. Camera is needed, is it not? Because to take their color and so forth. Put up a scale or sensor of the bird feeder to get the bird's weight, because we require weight here. Okay. Write a computer vision code to extract birds' wingspan, feed type, and back color. So that is the requirement what we need to do it if you want to automate this particular process. Okay. So if all the information is available, how do you decide whether the bird at our feeder is Camophilus principal? You know very well, you can really identify it based upon those particular features, where web, if it doesn't have a web feed, it has a back color. Okay. Then it is a Camophilus. Okay. Apart from that, sometimes we also require this weight and wingspan has to be measured. So this is called classification. So there are many machine learning algorithms that are good at classification that you can apply here. And you need to apply and check it, which particular classification is performing better. And if you are not able to get that total accuracy, why you are not getting it? That particular work is needed. It's not all about numbers here. Sometimes you feel that, oh, I get 99.9% accuracy, I'm doing great. No. But why you are not getting that 0.01%? What went wrong? And today I may get 99, tomorrow it may reduce to 96 when more and more data comes into picture. So that's the reason, the understanding of the features, why that particular thing is happening is very much needed. Okay, so the class in this example is the bird species, you know very well, that's what I said class. Species is the nothing but a class here for us. And all those four are the features for us. So next step, train the algorithm or allow it to learn. Okay, so we feed quality data known as training set. So the quality data. Now, before I move further, quality data. So sometimes what happens is the data may be having certain problems. You may have some missing values in this data. You may also have some, the noise in the data, some special characters being added. It is not properly, taken care. Then this has to be cleared before you have to go for that. So we need to feed the quality data as a training set. Okay, training set is a set of examples used to train the machine learning algorithms. In our case, we have 6 examples. Okay, which we have seen it here. Is it 6? Yeah, these 6 examples. Okay. So these are the features. This is the target variable. You know very well. Each training example has 4 features and 1 target variable. Okay. The target variable is to be predicted using machine learning algorithm. So look, probably I took a particular small example so that, whenever you take any problem, you need to get this particular, visual or this particular visualization in your mind. Okay. So in classification problem, the target variable is called classes. It is assumed that there are a finite number of classes. That is what the thing is. Sometimes you have many classes, then you have multi-labels there. Multi-label classification comes into picture. For which we have again separate set of algorithms. Okay. So to test a machine learning algorithm, we need to have a training set of the data. Okay. And a separate data called test set. Apart from training set, we also require a test set so that you test onto that and see whether it is performing correctly or not. So initially the program is fed with training examples. This is when machine learns. The test is then fed to the program to find the target variable it predicts. Okay. Yeah. So I think I've done a lot of theory. So before I proceed here, I'll just give you another one here. Just let me complete this. The target variable is a class to which the training example belongs is compared with the predicted value. Okay. The outcome what you get through the particular testing, you compare with the predicted value and check how accurate your algorithm is. Okay. So one is predicted, one is the actual value. You have to compare it and see how your algorithm is performing. Okay. So if the tested program meets the desired level of accuracy, okay, then of course you say that it is performing better. Okay. So can we realize what machine has learned? The knowledge representation, some of the algorithms have knowledge representation that is more readably by humans than others. Okay. So that means to say, can I write set of rules? You have a session on probability distribution. Okay. Can I get the knowledge through the distribution? I can get through rules here. As I already said that. If web feed is yes, I'll directly write its behavior with respect to this particular data set. The rule may change when I get some more birds who has web feed. Okay. And I'll say the back color. The back color is brown. Directly I can say it's a Buteo. So I need to only go with respect to the gray and the black. So I can write my rules here. Okay. Or sometimes if you see in this case where we have signature is where the weight is between some value to some other value. I can also compare that. Weight between 3000 to say 3400 based upon some values. Wingspan between say 199 to some 225. Okay. It all depends. So based on that, we identify the species.
Halu.
Halu.
He's married from my Hala. He's coming to Delhi for some business.
Okay.
So he told me to come for English and this meeting manufacturer.
Participant, please mute. Please mute. Okay. Yeah. So key tasks of machine learning. Before going to that, let me again give a particular interesting scenario. What we worked on that. We had a particular course where there were some of the students. Most of the students used to fail in a particular course. Okay. So initially, what we did is we tried to identify what can be done. No, why they are failing. We want to identify it. Okay. So the features what we had at that moment of time were very limited. We had their roll numbers, their names, and so forth. Okay. But of course, we only had some marks. Their marks were there. Fine. So their marks were there in that. So based on that marks, there were some grades were there. No, but we are not able to identify why they were getting, that is, fail grades. So these particular features were insufficient for us. So what we have to do is, we need to identify why students are failing in a particular course, but the features which were available with us were insufficient. So what we thought is nothing but we need to again go further to identify the reason. Though I have some of the outputs here, that is very much clear. Everybody can do it. Simple rules of the marks based on that you can get whether it is a pass or fail, which you can make the program learn also. That is not at all a difficult task. But so then we went to identify more features related to this. Okay, we want to identify more features. So probably we have written to the academic section that we want more details of the students, which of course had the data of students who from where they have done their graduation or from there they have done 10+2. What was their, the score in that? We could get those features. Still, it was very difficult for us. Then again, further we went further ahead. Okay, identifying what was their, the medium of instructions in those 10th and 10+2. And later on, the algorithm said that, where people coming from those particular places, some places from hometowns, were not able to perform in this particular course. Okay, finally, probably we came to a conclusion that, okay, just because of their, probably language barrier, they were not able to perform well in that. Now, so what we, plan to do is nothing but we want to make a system where before floating that particular course, we'll put onto our page that, please answer this question. Where you are from? What was your knowledge? What was your probably medium of instruction in your 10 and 10+2? Okay. Then you may get a particular error that you may fail this particular course well before taking the particular course. Then it says, don't worry, click here. You need to take an English language course offered by this department in the evening hours. Okay. And that's how, probably over the years, we have seen that there was an improvement onto that. So let's just go through this very fast. Okay. Because one such, classification example, I would like to give it to you so that you get a particular knowledge idea about it. Let me see. You are not able to see your slides. Is it? Not able to see the slides?
It's visible, sir.
Okay. So in classification, job is to predict what class and instance of a data should fall into, as we have seen in case of the bird example. So another task in machine learning is regression, where we have to predict a numerical value. We'll also talk about it. Okay. So regression attempts to determine the strength of relationship between dependent and independent variable. That is one addition here. We want to establish the relationship. Like we're taking an example. We want to predict the cost of a particular vehicle based upon its various features. Whether the age of the vehicle, okay, will affect the cost, whether the kilometers it has run will affect the cost, and so forth. That we can able to identify through regression. So classification and regression are examples of the supervised learning. We know very well we have these two types of learnings, supervised and unsupervised. Okay. In supervised, we have a classification, you have a particular label. Okay. Whereas in the other way is unsupervised learning, where you do not have a definite variable. So there is no label or target value. Okay. You will identify the similar items together, which probably somebody will discuss on that in detail. Okay. So we also want to find statistical values that describe the data. You have to go for a density estimation in case of unsupervised learning. And I have seen we have a session on probability on that. That was the common algorithms, okay, which performs the classification, regression, and clustering and density estimation tasks. So you need to probably, it's very easy, probably you will see in your live sessions which goes on, okay, where you have methods for everything. Okay. So that's the reason most importantly is understanding the domain. Understanding the algorithm is okay, good. Applying is so easy these days. You have all libraries available. We'll have a overview of some of those particular things very shortly. Okay, you have supervised, unsupervised, you have reinforcement learning, okay, which has now emerged a lot now, where you give a continuous feedback loop to the system. And of course, you get a reward point for each right action. There's a very good area there. Okay. So reinforcement learning is a feedback-based learning method in which a learning agent gets a reward for each right action and gets a penalty for each wrong action. Okay, so the agent learns automatically with these feedbacks and improves its performance. And that, of course, is very much true in the general scenario. So we want the system, we have to make a very good agents. Okay. So in reinforcement learning, the agent interacts with the environment and explores it. Okay. So the goal of the agent is to get the most reward point, hence it improves its performance. So it's the right time that we have to develop agents, okay, for various innovative tasks where we have to perform. So that's where, probably it's very interesting thing. So this I'll just leave it. There are some of those features. Okay. We have taken it, you identify class, patient's data 2. Sometimes you will get a presence of a disease for the same features for both the patients, but it may not be sufficient because their treatments may be different. Then we need to go for a deep learning like approach. Yeah. So I was talking about this particular, text classification. I already talked about it. You have a task, performance measure, and training experience. Every time you need to represent a particular problem in this form. Okay. Now, let's move ahead. We have, in a similar way, you can do the disease diagnosis problem where you have to write a task. In case of text classification, you've already seen that assign text to a set of predefined categories. So you have performance measures, precision and recall are the performance measures. Okay, where probably somebody will talk about on that. Where what happens is based upon the particular training experience, you can, of course, predict those particular things. I'll just leave that. Come to this particular concept of how to choose the right algorithm. Okay. First, consider your goal. Very much important. Please do that. Just don't take a data set and go ahead. Okay. What you are trying to find out is more important. Like, do you want to know the probability that share market will show positive trend tomorrow? Do you want to find group of voters with similar interest? Okay. What data you have or can you collect on it? And that's the reason what happens is sometimes, you may of course try this, this particular field with the secondary data set, but it is very much important for you to work something on your primary data set, where if you are working on particular area where you have put some sensors, where you are predicting something, where you are, trying to, say for example, save the power, you want to go for a green computing, so you can get some data out of it. And you can work on that particular thing so that you get real insights into the particular data as well. So first consider your goal. Then if you're trying to predict or forecast a target value, then you need to link into a supervised learning, otherwise unsupervised learning is used. This is what you need to do it. If you are trying to predict or forecast a target value, go for a supervised, otherwise go for a unsupervised learning. So if you have chosen a supervised learning, what's your target value? You have to specify whether it is a discrete value, whether it is a continuous value, you have to go for it. So if you choose a supervised learning, if you have chosen a supervised learning, because you know very well when do you choose it. So if you are trying to predict or forecast a particular target value, then you go for a supervised. Then unsupervised, you'll check what is your target value. If it is discrete value, like yes, no, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, then you need to go for a classification. But if the target value can take on number of values, then you need to go for a regression. I suppose that is so simple of it. And if you're not trying to predict or forecast a target value, then you need to go for a unsupervised learning. Okay. So you are trying to fit your data into some discrete groups, then you need to go look at clustering. Okay. If you are going to fit in a particular data into a particular group, like you have set of students who have performed really good or really bad. Okay. Then you have to go for a clustering. If you need to have a numerical estimate to find how strong it fits into each group. Okay, you want to only see how strong it fits into that group. Then you need to go for a density estimation algorithms. So 4 things here. You have classification algorithms or regression, clustering or the density estimation algorithm. Again, these rules are not rigid. Okay, there are instances where you can use classification techniques for regression as well. You can try it out. So you need to spend more time to know your data. I already talked about it. Okay. And the more you know about it, the better you will be able to build a successful application. And that is what is missing these days. Okay. You need to see whether your features are nominal or continuous, whether they are missing values, what to do, whether there are some outliers. Okay. Are you looking for something happening very infrequently? These things are needed. That's what it happens in some of those particular fraudulent identification applications that continuously a particular person is trying to log in a particular feature. You get a particular fraudulent message. So these features help in narrowing the algorithm selection process. Okay, then you have to try different algorithms. So do not directly put algorithms and start trying on it. Okay, this is a standard process I would like to discuss because most of this will be common with respect to ML and data science. So here, the first thing is you gather the data. I already talked about it. You can have a primary data source if you are doing your own work, or you can also take a secondary data source. Okay. So you identify data sources, you collect the data, then you integrate data from all sources. Here again, that big data features come into picture where we have data coming in various varieties. Okay. Data coming in various varieties. Okay. So that particular, all sorts of data has to be gathered. And of course, so that the data has to be gathered in such a way that you are able to analyze and apply algorithms later on to that. Okay. No, that's what it is needed. Data can come from various sources. It could be in different formats. You should put the data into a singular format where you are able to do the further analysis and you are able to apply the machine learning algorithms. So here, that is data preparation. Put data into suitable place and usable format to prepare it to use it to our ML training. Then, of course, we need to really do this data wrangling process or data pre-processing here. Okay, that is very much needed. Sometimes what we feel is nothing but, oh, we don't need to worry about missing data. But always it is not true. Because what happens here is nothing but, sometimes, for example, you feel that there is a null value, I'll delete that particular row. But that particular value itself or that particular object itself will help in taking a lot of decisions. So in that case, it is always better to think about what to do with the missing values or duplicate data, invalid data or noise data. So this has to be, applied. It's done. A lot of work has to be done on this data pre-processing before you exactly go for applying of your, machine learning algorithms or building your own model. Then you have to analyze the data, select technique. You have seen some of the characteristics. How do we select a particular technique? Then you build the model. You review the results with your expected outcome and compare it. So for that reason, you require training of the model, then you have to do the testing of the model, and finally you have to deploy it. Yeah. So probably this was the ML. And what about data science? How it is different? Yeah, as I already said in one of these particular discussion which we had in some of the conference with again Manu. Okay, the Turing Award winner Jim Gray imagined data science as a fourth paradigm of science. Empirical, theoretical, computational, and live data is driven. And he asserted that everything about science is changing. Okay, because the information, because of IT and data dealer, data coming in various formats. Okay, so why it is happening? Extremely large data sets that will be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, trends, and associations, especially related to human behavior and interactions. Now here there is a catch again. Today, in reality, we are applying this particular data science and all these particular techniques. Well, again, load a very extremely large data set. And that is one more part where you say that your algorithm is performing very much better. But you do the data processing on very small data. And that doesn't require a machine learning algorithm also. Simple rules can do that. So really when you want to test your accuracy, performance, and your predictions, then you need to have the very large data sets. So here I would like to just discuss few things. So the first age was a theoretical or axiomatic age, where everything was a theory. Okay, and I always tell this example: like Earth is a sphere, was said in that particular age. Then of course, it came on to a particular thing where you do a lot of experimentation age. You do experiment and you identify what is really happening. Okay, that was not sufficient. Then you had the third paradigm where you had a simulation and modeling. You do the simulation and modeling, you try to identify those particular trends which you cannot do in the reality. Because in experimentation, at least you have the real picture, real band is available. But when you cannot have a real, but yet you want to know the internal trends, then you go for a simulation and modeling. And finally, in the fourth paradigm, which is a data-driven paradigm, data being a new oil, here you also have the conflict resolution strategies to be adopted in data science. And we require, apart from that, the interdisciplinary nature with the exact domain. We already had an example earlier. We'll just discuss one more thing on that, which we talk about, the automated cars or driverless cars. Okay. So here, in this driverless cars, okay, you have trained this particular car, you have made this car learn, okay, to drive it automatically. So the question that comes into picture is nothing but, which I always give this example. If the car meets with an accident, who will be held responsible? Okay, whether the car owner will be held responsible or the car manufacturer will be held responsible. Okay, or probably the public person who is there, who got affected, is responsible. Very difficult to predict. That is what comes into data science as a fourth paradigm. We should also require the conflict resolution strategies when it comes to this particular paradigm. Okay. So some of the very, not that recent analytics, but it's very good to see. Okay. The talent demand and supply report of AI and big data analytics. It is increasing. Okay. So if you see here, the total job openings versus the university talent. And if you see the offerings are increasing enormously. And if you see the talent is not growing in the same way. And that's exactly AICT wants with respect to these particular workshops, where people get trained on that. So total demand of AI and media talent in India is estimated around 800,000 by the end of this particular year, which is more now, I think. Okay. So data is the new oil. You have various drivers for that. Okay. Exponentially increasing the data generation. A lot of data is generated every day, every second. Okay. So we require a cost-effective infrastructure. Okay. Increase the affordability of tools. A lot of affordable tools are needed to do this, but there are affordable tools which are available. Okay, which can enhance your capabilities. So you are able to do the consolidation of the data with these tools. So some of those tools will be discussed during this particular, the FDP. Okay, rise of data rich and analytics firms. A lot of firms have come into picture. People who want to use this data. Okay, where probably I don't want to take a decision at the end of the cycle. Earlier it used to happen when the entire financial year is completed. Then the business organizations used to see what was their performance, what went wrong, and then they want to move ahead in the next financial year. But no, it is not so. At any moment of time, I would like to know where I'm going next. Whether the next move will take the the turnover down or it will increase. So if it is going down, what measures has to be taken so that I can move forward further in a better way. So that's how the impact comes into picture. So I think during the inauguration session, I have seen this sort of slide where a lot of firms, analytics firms, 400 startups, even the state government has declared this decade as a AI decade and supporting a lot of startups in this particular area. Okay. And a lot of government policies with respect to national innovation and startup policy has come into picture where people can, of course, get their ideas and go and work on it. I just like this. Okay. So multiple opportunities are emerging across business models. You have data providers, data infrastructure providers, data integration and warehousing, analytics and data presentation software, analytics services, okay, system integrators and implementers. So a lot of such opportunities are available as with respect to NASSCOM. This slide is very interesting. Okay, exactly matching with the slide which we displayed with respect to skills, with respect to the mathematics, statistics, and the domain knowledge. Okay, so here we have, you say data scientist. When you talk about data scientist, okay, it is data architect, workflow integrator, data visualization analyst, and model developer. So till now what we discussed was a model developer. Likewise, we'll also see some of the parts of data visual analytics. But if you see, you got a change manager there. So the change manager is actually the domain person. Okay. So along with the data scientists put together, they can make a data strategist, business partner. Okay. So we have data scientists which can do these particular activities. He is a data architect, data visualization analysis, model developer, and workflow integrator. These are needed. Why? Because workflow integrated come into picture. Because you have the data coming from various places, it has to be integrated. Okay, the data models has to be prepared. Okay, the appropriate data model which can be applied onto this particular data has to be identified. And you require a lot of visualization. We will see, okay, some of the. So here we require 3 skills there. If you see at the top, analytics skills, business skills, and technological skills. So the technological skills makes you the data architect, data strategies, okay, and workflow integrated. Whereas, the business skills is what, is very much important, which talks about your domain. Okay. Which talks about your domain. Then you also have nothing but analytical skills, which are very much needed. Why? Because one is you do a lot of data analysis, but what is the inherent trend into that? Okay, what do you understand by the data? What do you make out of it is very much important. That can be done by a analytical, that is analytics. Okay, so we'll see that. So if you see on the right hand side, the emergence of analytics driven business process, critical roles have come into picture. Okay, in HR we have now people analytics officer, HR system analytics officer. It's very much important, like we have seen in our video, which people have what trend, how they perform at various stages, how they perform in various seasons. Okay, those sort of analytics are coming into picture. Okay, and so many other things. I just gave you a few examples. Likewise, the role of every particular person is changing here in every vertical, either it is HR or a marketing or any other vertical. Even in assessing of the risk and security, earlier we used to say that if this risk happens, then I have to take this particular strategy so that the risk reduces. Now we are talking about risk estimation right at the beginning, before it occurs. Okay, because of all the data which has gone, a lot of knowledge which is being fed up into the system, we are able to make such predictions. Okay, so analytics moving to AI. Okay, we have all re-engineering, transform, reimagining business. This is again another area where what we do is we do a lot of re-engineering. That is, first we see what happened earlier, what things would have been done and what has been missing, and you re-engineer the value chain so that your productivity increases further. So, people used to talk about big data, where a lot of gigabytes of data are generally generated every day for all aspects of our life. If you see, even in this particular interaction, a lot of data is being generated. Okay. For example, now you are able to see only participants. You're able to see me speaking. It is being recorded. Okay. If I could put some more cameras on yourself and I say, please switch on the camera, I can get a lot of data. Probably I would like to make analysis based upon, probably some features of the face, which we did probably last semester. We would like to know what are the concentration levels of the students sitting in this class. Specifically in virtual environment, I do not know at all. Okay. Now, even it is not mandatory for you to switch on your video, but even if it is switch on, and even if you are listening to me, how do I identify that? But if you see, enormous data is coming into picture here. Okay. So for this particular huge amount of data which is coming every day, if you see so many videos being uploaded onto YouTube, which has become a business. Okay. So many things, so many tweets generated, so much of mails coming up, so much of Google data coming up, so much of Facebook, its content being developed. So, the existing techniques and technology will not be sufficient to do that. So we require better technologies which can do the faster analysis with greater accuracy. So as defined by Gartner, this is only just some slide which I wanted to specify, because while usually you are doing this, your ML and data science, you need to think about these characteristics of the big data as well. So big data is a high volume, high velocity or high variety information asset that requires new forms of processing to enable enhanced decision making. We already discussed that. Okay, there's another definition for a NIST. You can say it. So basically, when you are, like sometimes we asked our student, okay, you have developed your algorithm. What, which particular characteristics of big data you're concentrating at? Is it only volume? Because volume only talks about size. Are you also talking about variety? Data in various forms. Because data may be in various forms, but you have to integrate it. Is it only structured data? Is it unstructured data? Okay, is it a text data? Is it a multimedia data? If it is from various forms, how do I integrate it? Are you doing that? Are we considering all forms of data? Okay, in your model building as well as prediction. Velocity, data in motion, streaming of the data to enable decisions within fractions of a second. Okay, I would like to take a decision. Okay, maybe at one line, I just feel that I get a graph stating that the students are being bored, the participants are bored. So immediately I need to take a particular step where I get everybody back and I say, I'm putting a poll, everybody please answer. Okay, then everybody gets into that and they'll answer it. I say, who will not answer poll will not get a certificate. Everybody gets answered. So here, but how do I know that? If I'm collecting the data, streaming data, and I have to take decision within a fraction of second. Okay. So sometimes, probably I used to joke some 3, 4 years back, but that is the reality today. I used to tell my students in a physical class that I'll put a camera. This camera will capture your faces. And on the right side of my screen, it will display a graph. It says that the saturation levels are going down or people are getting saturated. Okay, then immediately I have to change the topic and change another way so that you people again get back into the class. And that is exactly velocity what we talk about it. So are you dealing with that? The data uncertainty. Are you talking about, the inconsistencies between the data? Whether you're talking about, certain things which are happening in the data where to make the data reliable? Okay. For imprecise data type. For example, if you feel that it fails during the particular collection of the data, suddenly the system fails. What happens to the data? How do I make a prediction out of it? Okay. Likewise, we have uncertainty with the data. How do I deal it? So here we have also seen sometimes that the features, you have seen that the existing features, we are not able to predict the actual thing. So it was uncertainty. So we need to remove that uncertainty. You remember that example where we got some more features to remove that uncertainty. So whenever you are doing such, making some model building, you need to also think about, of course, I agree that you will not always concentrate on all of this. So you may say that, as of now, to start with that, I'm not talking about one volume. I want to just go for variety. And once I'm able to, that is, make the model building for various forms of the data, then I'll go on increasing the volume. Okay. So you have to get these particular parameters into your data. Okay. That is very much important. So I'll just remove this. So data science lies at the intersection of hacking skills, maths and statistical knowledge, substantial expertise. Okay, I know that you may be getting bored now, so I'll just display some of the tools. Okay, so that you are with me. Okay, there is a joke. Data scientist is someone who knows more statistics than computer scientists and knows more computer science than statisticians. I think I do not know whether you gave a smile or not. I don't know. Okay, but of course we require both the skills. So data scientist is someone who extract insights from messy data. But I don't think we are doing that. We are, of course, getting insights from the very well-structured form of data, and we are saying we are data scientists. So really messy data requires a lot of pre-processing techniques, data wrangling, understanding the data, then thinking which particular algorithm to apply based upon my target and go for it. Okay. So data science is an art of interpretation of the data and bringing insights from the data. Okay. It's the art of interpretation of data and bringing insights from the data. You have to really get insights of the data which are not known actually. Then only, you can say it's a data science. So that is very much important in that case. Okay. So it is also a study of observations and interpretations for a better result. So what is data science? I already talked about it. It's an interdisciplinary field about processes and systems. It is an interdisciplinary field. What about what? Processes and systems to extract knowledge or insights to data in various forms. I think you have understood because you have taken several examples of that. The data could be structured or unstructured. Okay. Which is a continuation of some of the data analysis fields such as statistics, data mining, and predictive analytics. So these were already there. We require the continuation of that. Okay. So that you get more and more knowledge can be extracted by even adding the domain expertise. I talked about it, right? How the performance affects, how the performance of, that is how the health of the student, particular person affects the performance in the job. Okay. So that is the fourth paradigm which is coming into picture here. Okay. The past of data science was all about descriptive analytics or describing what has already taken place. I already talked about it. Okay. So data analytics is generally logical to data warehousing, business intelligence. These are the fields which are there. Okay. So data analytics is unable to provide us hidden pattern of data. But the future of data science will think on advanced analytics where you are able to get the, still of course you have started getting this with little cost and little confusion. So data science process, just to see this again, you get some more information, which is very much similar to the machine learning, except that please do remember, you require two more things here. One is the interdisciplinary nature, you require a domain expertise. You also require conflict resolution strategies in case you are developing the real application. Okay. So your data, raw data is collected from sensors in the environment. If you talk about that, usually we talk about sensors today. Not only sensors, sometimes you're collecting from sensors, sometimes manually, sometimes through various things. Okay. So data is processed. Okay, that data is processed. How data is processed? By data wrangling and cleaning the data sets. Then only you go for exploratory data analysis. So please do remember these steps. You have collected the data. You have to clean the data. Okay, do not go for exploratory data analysis and statistical model unless and until you completed your data pre-processing. And once you get the exploratory data analysis, you will get the very broad insights into the data. Okay, then you can apply the models and algorithms. You remember that we discussed when do we apply a classification, when do you apply a regression, okay, when do we apply clustering, okay. So that can be think about it. So exploratory data analysis is done, then probably you apply the models and algorithms. Okay. Then that's not the end. You have to go for visualizing report. Data visualization comes into picture, then the data product comes into picture. So here, so once you have collected data, once you have data, you have to do the data pre-processing, then you have to go for exploratory data analysis. Okay. So you have, then only you can, once you do the EDA, you will get to know that which type of model building can be possible. Then you can apply the respective model. Then let's not just stop. You have to visualize it properly. Then in the visualization, you do not get your actual predicted thing. Then you need to modify your model. You need to fine tune your algorithm, fine tune the features so that you get what you are expecting to that. So most of the research and applications are data oriented. Okay. As such, there is a need of statistics in almost all domains. We require statistical learning. Okay. So data analytics process has different things. One is collecting the data, model building. Then you go for inference. So you go for a hypothesis testing. So we'll just give this. Coming to tools, probably because you have a session I've seen on Python. Okay, data science, field you can better you go for the Python. Okay. And there are various dialects of it. So many Python dialects are there. You can install a Jupyter Notebook as well. So since most of you are from computer science, I'll tell you that install a Python or a demo, install NumPy, numerical Python. You can do a lot of, the numerical operations, specifically the large array computation, huge array computation can be done. A lot of methods are easily provided using NumPy. Because if you see the data set, the huge data set, what you're collecting is nothing but an n-dimensional array. Okay, n-dimensional array. Then you have, so though you can apply all those sort of things that you need to learn for it. So you have to first learn the basic Python. In that, specifically, your concentration should be on sequences, lists, strings, okay, dictionaries, because dictionary is very much important. We use at so many places. Then over and above, you have to learn about NumPy functions. A lot of methods are there. Then you have Scipy, scientific Python. A lot of statistics can be done in this. Okay, a lot of methods are available in this. Fourier transformations can be done on that. A lot of linear algebra methods can be applied even with NumPy. Okay, you can compute eigenvalues, eigenvectors. You can, of course, have a huge matrix and get the solution of that matrix using various methods. You can get a random numbers and so forth. Then for visualization, because you also need to visualize it to see your outcomes. So we require Matplotlib, Seaborn, PyPlot. These are the libraries which are needed for the visualization purpose. So it is always better that you install a Python, over and above you install an NumPy, then you install a Scipy, Matplotlib, Seaborn, then you install Pandas. Okay, the Pandas is very important library for data processing, okay, or data analytics. Okay, it supports so many features of it, so you can go for installing of the Pandas. Now, apart from that, for example, if you want to do natural language processing, then you install NLTK. So you can go on installing as per your choice, what are the things you can do it. And you have to know how to use it actually. There are other tools as well. R programming is also there. For all the data analytics, you can use R programming as well. You have Octave, Root, Julia, MOA. Try some 2-3. Okay, at least you should have that. Okay. Open rifle is there, fusion is there, SEMP is there, rapid miner is there, we used it. Okay. LKey, data IQ is also there, which are all used for this data preprocess, data processing as well as data analytics. So I'll just go through a little bit of EDA, because once your data is pre-processed, maybe I'll just display some of the techniques for pre-processing if it is possible in this time. But once you have done this pre-processing, you go for your EDA. So here is procedure for analyzing data. Okay, basically when you do EDA, you get 5 summary parameters. Okay, you get 2 extremes, min max, you get a median, you get quartile 1, quartile 2. Okay, that is what you get it here. Okay, so that what happens is you get the little bit understanding of the data. What is the minimum value? What is the maximum value? Okay, what is the mean of it? What is the standard deviation? What is quartile 1? What is median? What is quartile 2? What is interquartile range? What is quartile 3? And what is interquartile range? So once you have this data, it is very easy for you to at least get what is this particular data talking about. What is its range? What is the general mean value? Okay. What is quartile? What is interquartile range? What is the median? So you get some insights into the data. That's the reason it's better. Once you do your pre-processing, better do your exploratory data analysis. Okay, I'll just give this. You have different EDA methods where you can get a descriptive method, statistics method that gives brief overview of data set. Okay, just like what we discussed now. You can also do basic grouping of categorical data. I have, probably if you see, I have a vehicle of petrol vehicles. I want to get the only data of petrol vehicles and what is their average cost. Okay, average cost of a CNG vehicle. So I can do the grouping data. Apart from that, I can also do the analysis of variation. Okay, where I can divide the observations into 2 sets and compute the divide variation. So you could also do correlation methods onto this EDA. I'll just leave this. Then we require data visualization. So before I go for data visualization, let me tell you that when you go for a data pre-processing, so what you do here is nothing but you, of course, manage the missing data. Whenever there is a missing data, what you have to do? How do you manage it? So either what you can do is, if really mean gives some significance, you can do the mean of the, if it is a numerical value, you can do the mean of that particular all values and put a mean value. But sometimes always the entire mean will not be sufficient, that is helpful for us. So we can do mean based upon the group. For example, I want to get the cost of a particular 4-wheeler is missing. I'll just say that all those particular vehicles whose age is between this to this, okay, which was run from this kilometer to that kilometer, only those vehicles average has to be taken to manage missing data. Okay, if it is categorical data, you can take even a mode and do it. Data formatting has to be done. Sometimes what happens, we have seen in the data set, same data is represented in various formats. For example, I write a Telangana, T-E-L-E-N-G-A-N-A, Telangana, or I write TS. But the system will not understand it has to be formatted in a single format. So sometimes you need to convert the categorical values to numerical values for the getting good statistical observations onto that. So for example, I'll say petrol vehicle, I'll code it as 1, diesel as 2, CNG as 3, methane as 4, and so forth. Data normalization, you have to do it specifically when the data values, the ranges are very much disturbed or varied. For example, I have a particular feature whose values are between 0 to 10. And I have another feature whose values are ranging till crores or billions. Now, I would actually put them onto a model, so it will be very difficult for the model for the prediction. So what I do the normalization. There are various normalization techniques. I can get all the values between 0 to 1 so that it is easy for prediction and so forth. Data billing. Sometimes what happens is you want to group the data. I have salaries of all the people. I want to group these salaries into low salary group, medium salary group, and high salary group. I can do that. So internally, there are methods available with Pandas which will draw a histogram, identify the cut, and bill it. So these are the things what you need to do well before you go for your exploratory data analysis. That is the first thing. And once you do the exploratory data analysis, then you can identify which learning algorithm has to be applied, okay, for a better prediction. And once you have done that, you have to go for your data visualization. So no matter what data you analyze, but visualization is necessary. So what is visualization? It is a process of understanding the significance of the data, placing it in the visual context. In simple thing is nothing but whatever data, whatever outcomes you are getting it, you have to plot it. Okay, because the pictorial, you know very well, picture speaks better. Okay, people used to say picture speaks 1,000 words, which is very less today. Okay, because of big data. So three branches of data visualizations are there: scientific, information, and visual analytics. So data visualization involves various disciplines. Again, this visualization itself is a very good, skill. It requires a lot of things. So I'll just leave this. You have a scientific visualization, which is an interdisciplinary field. Okay, where focus is on visualization of three-dimensional phenomena, such as architecture. So we have a three-dimensional phenomenon here. You have seen in case of this particular figure, where you have a lot of CT scans and so forth. That is a scientific, but we start with the information visualization. And we have visual analytics, which is a combination of both. So here, information visualization, what you do is you can draw your graphs, flow charts, okay, the bar charts, and you can get the trend. And this both together becomes a visual analytics. Okay. So the data visualization also has a process. So what you are doing is basically you are mapping from data space to the graphic space. Okay. So here if you see the procedure here, okay, where you have a data, okay, then you do the data filtering, it gets into the visual form, then again you have to render it. Why rendering is required? Because finally you have to make a particular graph in such a way that it is understood by the user. So here if you see, that's the reason we have IO libraries. You have to do filtering so that you get in the visual form. Okay. Because filtering is needed, otherwise you cannot display in the proper visual form. Then you have to render it properly. There are a lot of rendered factory methods. Okay, so that it is understandable to the user. Now, as I said, this itself is a very big field. Okay, the data visualization. The visualization experts are also needed. So you require him to master so many things. A professional data visualization engineer needs to master the following technology stack: basic mathematics, okay, graphics, engineering algorithms. Of course, it requires data analysis, what we discussed. You also require data design aesthetics, that is very much important. Design principles, aesthetic judgment, color, what color is better, because based on the cognitive ability of the customer, we need to go for that. Visual coding, visual analysis is needed, as well as correct use of charts is very much needed here. Because there are a lot of charts, sometimes what happens is you can visualize the data through various charts, but which chart is very much appropriate has to be selected. That is also a skill which has to be developed here. So there are a lot of things which are available in Python. We have already seen. We have Matplotlib. Okay. We have Seaborn. We have PyPlot. Okay. In our language, we have ggplot. Okay. So most familiar tool of order. Okay. You can also use Excel because most of you might be familiar with that. Or we have other commercial tools as well. Tableau is there, Find Report, Power BI, etc. You can also look for other tools. D3 is there. iCharts, eCharts, Leaflet, Vega. Of course, we tried very few, but if you have time, you can look into some of those tools. Okay. So I'll just leave this because of shortage of time, but only thing is what I meant to say is you should design a particular learning system before we proceed to do the things. Okay. So you can go for various algorithms. Okay. Then if you really require, you have to go for deep learning. You have again, there is a library called Keras, which is used for deep learning. Just like you have installed other libraries, you can also install this deep learning library called Keras and start working on it. So actually, I think you might have got a particular total overview of that so that the sessions coming up will throw some light. I have seen that there's a immediate session on the applications with some bioinformatics. You have Python programming. Okay, please try to involve yourself and see that by the end of the workshop, you do something. You can take some data set and, do the things continuously one after the other, with the speaker as well. So with this, thank you for that. If you could just rush it because of shortage of time. So that is the contact details.
Sir, I have one doubt. Can I?
Yes. Yeah, please.
Sir, could you please elaborate about computational graphs?
Computational graphs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, of course, what you have to do is, it all depends upon how you are going to represent your data in the form of a graph. So once you represent in the form of a graph, then probably you can apply your various graph algorithms onto that. So all that technique, probably if you see the next session, we'll talk about that. Maybe when you talk about the biological applications, everything is represented in the form of a graph. Then you could know that particular thing more detail there.
And I thought like computational intensive problems, which require more math operations compared to that of the memory, that require.
But
in
now
the
again,
context-
yeah, but there is a trade-off there. Now memory also optimization can be done with lot of other techniques. That's the reason we require a lot of other interdisciplinary area as well. Like we apply the memory that is, we require optimization. We have to put optimization principles just to do that. So there is a trade-off. Sometimes we need to again go with that particular, the memory capacity, we have to enhance that, or we can optimize that. So it all depends upon the problem what we do it.
Good afternoon to all of you. Sir, it was a wonderful session. I'll start just by recollecting what has happened in the session. I pretty much enjoyed it a lot. The coordinator, sir, is here. Sir,
थैंक यू सलमान साहब, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर। देखना ऑडियो नहीं आ रहा है इसमें, मेरा ऑडियो ही कहाँ चला जा रहा है।
sir, you are audible.
हेलो फरिया, कैन यू हियर मी?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yes.
We can hear you.
आवाज आ रही है? Okay, I think the session went very smoothly, and in between I was not able to attend the entire session, but I am sure we went with our most trusted batsman, opening batsman, Professor Salman Abdul Moeed Saab, who have been with us in all the formats, BOS, school board, FDPs, RACs, any sort of things, and we are highly grateful to our dearest friend and Professor Abdul Moeed Saab to deliver this opening technical talk on data science, and I'm sure the students might and all the participants might have enjoyed the session up to the maximum possible extent. And the best part would be if the students and the participant kindly carry forward and to implement either in the form of their project or either in the form of carrying some research work or guiding the PhD students, MTech students or MCA in whatever way. So it was just beginning, and we look forward to each one of the participants and kindly do interact. I'm sure we have tried to get the speakers, resource person from all over the countries, from the NITs, central universities, industry experts, and to the best of our approach and the availability. So kindly do interact with the resource person. It should not be a monologue. That's it. This PPT is going on because a person I know like Salman Moeed Saab, he loves to interact with the student. Until unless you raise a number of queries, sir is not going to get satisfied. So I wish I could have been there to raise a few queries to sir. But anyway, sir, thank you so very much for being with us. Thank you, sir. And thank you, audience. Thank you, participants. Now, I think we have a lunch break, 1:30 to 2:30. And then around 2:30, we would be meeting again for another technical talk. So, Faria, if not anything else from my side, thank you one and all.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Salman, sir, it has been a very informative session. You started off with an interesting story of precision medicine, which is the need of the hour. Definitely, we would like to interact with you on this topic. I would definitely come by to University of Hyderabad because I've been trying to explore this area. Then you talked about knowledge representation, giving a very beautiful example of word classification. I mean, I enjoyed it very much because it was a very unusual example. What we usually see examples of classifying shapes, weather. I mean, so classification of words was a very unusual example in enjoying at the same time. Then, so you talked about how businesses are being reimagined using data science and machine learning. It was too good to understand what roles our students or what roles can we pursue in future as data scientists. Then the NASCOM report. I mean, it was really interesting. Yeah, we do come across these things, but as a lecture, to listen to it was very good.
Thank you.
Then, sir, one more thing I enjoyed about your slide was the discussion of the word clouds, the typical pattern in text data. As reader myself, I fail to understand what are the keywords of a particular book. If we can implement the word cloud on any novel, it would be very enjoying to read that novel at the end. Then about the exploratory data analysis, I mean, it was a beautiful, cohesive lecture which came together. And it was wonderful, sir, having you here. Thank you for your time and thank you for your insight today and always in the past also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
We wish we could have provided a cup of tea and the lunch to you, but we'll
Excuse
join
me, sir.
sometimes later, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Anji, please.
Good
Good afternoon. How are you,
afternoon,
Saraswati?
Sir, fine, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Okay,
actually,
कैसे हैं
attendance
सारस्वत
link is not
बताओ?
working.
Which one?
Attendance link is not working, sir.
Attendance link we will take care. In the morning session, Saraswat, there was some connectivity issue,
Okay.
and it was intermittent, connecting and reconnecting. So
Okay, sir.
I think this afternoon session, this matter would be taken care. And
Right,
because you
sir.
are a
No issue, no issue,
non-candidate, you are a non-friend. So anything else, you have my number also.
Yes, sir.
Brinder, I give this liberty to you. You just call me up for any technical flaw, audio, video, connectivity, attendance, feedback, whatever. You can
Okay,
call
sir.
me
No
directly,
issue, sir.
please. Huh?
And thank you, sir.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
And any participant from the ABS Ghaziabad, I would like to see, and I would be more than happy to interact.
Sir, okay, sir. Thank you. I'll leave.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any participants from the ABS Ghaziabad?
Sir, I think one or two faculty is there, but at this
Yeah,
time.
not known to me, I
Yes,
think.
sir.
No? Okay, no issue. No. So I hope, sir, you all enjoyed the session. Anyone else? Okay. So then now let us have a break for the lunch, and then coming back to the another technical session at 2:30 or so. Right? Okay. By then, take care. Thank you.